The thunder cracked like a gunshot. "Hey, are you out of your mind?" Terrence shouted as his wipers fought a losing battle against the storm. He could barely see the road through sheets of rain, but then his headlights caught movement. Someone stumbling along the shoulder, soaked and shivering. He slammed the brakes. The old Ford fishtailed before stopping. He jumped out, the cold slicing through his uniform. The woman looked like a ghost. White dress, blood trickling down her temple, eyes wide with confusion. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Her lips trembled. "My car, it crashed. Please, I can't feel my hands." Terrence didn't hesitate. He wrapped his work jacket around her and half-carried her to the truck. The storm howled louder, as if warning him not to get involved. But leaving her there wasn't an option. Hospitals were flooded, radio said. He turned toward his apartment. "You'll be safe there, I promise." She whispered something. "Scar," before her eyes fluttered shut. Inside his apartment, dim light revealed how bad she looked. Cuts, soaked dress, trembling. "You need warmth, not questions," he murmured, grabbing towels. His neighbor, Mrs. Chen, appeared with dry clothes and a first aid kit. Together, they patched her up. When she woke, she looked around, dazed. "Where am I?" "South Side, my place." "I'm Terrence." She touched her bandaged head. "Someone ran me off the road, I think." "It wasn't an accident," he paused. "We should call the cops." "No." Her voice cracked with fear. "Please, not yet. I don't know who I can trust." Terrence studied her. Expensive jewelry, manicured nails, accent refined but shaken. "Who are you really?" She hesitated. "Just someone who made the wrong enemies." Rain still beat against the window. For a moment, neither spoke. The storm outside matched the silence inside. Heavy, uncertain. He set a mug of tea in front of her. "You don't owe me your story. Just stay till morning." Her hand shook as she lifted the cup. "Why are you helping me?" He shrugged. "Because somebody should." Her eyes softened. "That's rare these days." "Maybe. But my grandma used to say, 'We rise by lifting others.'" The corner of her mouth lifted. The first trace of a smile. "She sounds wise." "She was," Terrence said quietly. "Lost her last year." Their eyes met. His dark and steady, hers bright but haunted. Two strangers bound by a storm neither had expected. Outside, lightning split the sky. Inside, something else sparked. Something fragile and human. Neither of them knew it yet. But that night's act of kindness would unravel a secret that would change both their lives forever. Morning sunlight broke through the curtains like it didn't know it was intruding. The room smelled faintly of coffee and rain-soaked clothes drying on the heater. Terrence stirred awake on the couch, his back stiff. For a moment, he forgot about the night before, until he heard movement in the kitchen. She was there, wearing one of Mrs. Chen's oversized sweatshirts and borrowed pajama pants. Barefoot, humming softly as she tried to work his ancient coffee maker. Her hair was a tangled mess of blonde curls now clean, her face bare, her beauty stripped of glamour but somehow more real. "Morning," he said, rubbing his eyes. She turned, startled. "Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to intrude. You were asleep. I thought I'd make breakfast to thank you." Terrence chuckled. "You don't owe me anything, but I won't say no to breakfast." She smiled faintly. "Scarlet. That's my name," he nodded. "Terrence Caldwell." As she moved around his tiny kitchen, he couldn't help but notice how out of place she looked in that setting. Porcelain skin against peeling paint, delicate hands handling chipped plates. Yet she didn't seem bothered. "Your apartment's small," she said, glancing around. "But it feels safe." "Yeah," he said. "It's not much, but it's mine." They ate in silence for a while. Then she asked quietly, "You work nights?" "Maintenance at Apex Industries. Big corporate tower downtown. I fix things people don't notice are broken." Her fork paused midair. "Apex?" She hesitated. "That's a big company." He shrugged. "Big enough not to notice people like me. But it pays the bills." Her eyes flickered with recognition, but she hid it. "It must be hard, working there. Hard part isn't the work. It's feeling invisible." Something in that sentence hit her harder than she expected. She looked down at her plate. "Invisible," she repeated softly. He noticed her tone change. "You okay?" She nodded, forcing a smile. "Just tired." After breakfast, she asked to borrow his old laptop. "Need to check something." "Company stuff," she said vaguely. He didn't press. "Wi-Fi's slow. Be patient with it." While he showered, Scarlet opened the laptop and started typing rapidly. Encrypted channels, corporate portals. She was navigating systems he couldn't dream of. Within minutes, her face paled. Emails, documents, boardroom chatter. Her worst fear confirmed. Someone inside Apex was planning her removal, but before she could dig deeper, Terrence stepped out, drying his hair. She slammed the screen shut. He frowned. "You okay?" "Yeah," she said quickly. "Just reading old messages." For the rest of the morning, an unspoken tension filled the room. Two people from different worlds. One hiding her identity, the other sensing there was more to her story. When the rain returned, softer now, she stood by the window watching it fall. "Funny," she murmured, "how storms bring out the truth in people." Terrence looked up from fixing his toolbox. Or maybe they just wash away the lies. Neither realized how right they both were. The buzz of Terrence's old flip phone shattered the quiet. He glanced at the screen and groaned. Emergency meeting. Maintenance crew. 30 minutes. Scarlet looked up from the couch. "On a Saturday?" "Pipes don't care what day it is," he said with a small grin, already pulling on his damp work boots. But something in her expression made him pause. "You'll be okay here? There's food, Wi-Fi, TV." "Well, mostly static, but it works," she nodded. "I'll be fine. Thank you, Terrence." As soon as he left, the warmth in the apartment felt thinner. Scarlet opened the laptop again, her fingers moving with practiced precision. She dove deeper into Apex's system. Her pulse raced. The takeover was worse than she'd thought. Emails from the interim head of operations, Harrison Cross, detailing her removal. Monday morning. A board vote. A new CEO. She scrolled further. Employee files. She typed Terrence Caldwell. When his record appeared, she froze. Northwestern University, engineering degree, she whispered. Full scholarship, perfect attendance. Her voice trailed off as she reached the notes. Passed over for promotion, needs more polish. Cultural mismatch. She clenched her jaw. She knew those corporate code words too well. They weren't about merit. They were about race, background, and perception. At that moment, something shifted inside her. The man who had saved her wasn't just kind. He was a reflection of everything her company had failed to see. Meanwhile, at Apex Industries, Terrence arrived dripping from the rain. The usually quiet maintenance hall buzzed with unease. "Ray, what's going on?" He asked his friend Raymond. Ray shrugged. They called everyone in. "Said it's urgent." Executives in tailored suits stood at the front of the room, a rare sight in the basement. One man stepped forward, sharp-jawed, expensive watch glinting. "I'm Harrison Cross," he announced. "Interim head of operations." The crew exchanged uneasy looks. "I'll get straight to it," Cross continued. "Our CEO, Miss Scarlet Winters, has gone missing. Her car was found on Highway 90, totaled. No sign of her. We believe someone within the company may be helping her hide." Terrence's stomach turned cold. Cross's eyes swept the room like a hawk. "If anyone has seen or heard anything, now's your chance to speak up. There's a $50,000 reward for information leading to her location, and termination for anyone aiding her." Whispers rippled through the group. Terrence's hands clenched at his sides. His heart pounded so loudly he could barely hear the rest. When the meeting ended, Janet, his supervisor, caught up to him. "You okay, Terrence? You look pale." "Yeah," he muttered. Just tired, but inside he was spiraling. $50,000. Enough to pay off his student loans, move his sister into a better home, maybe even start his own company. Yet when he pictured Scarlet, shivering, bleeding, thanking him through trembling lips, his conscience burned hotter than any paycheck. By the time he reached his truck, the storm had started again. He gripped the steering wheel, staring into the rain. He didn't know it yet, but the choice he was about to make would change everything. For her, for him, and for the company that had never seen him until now. Terrence's keys jingled nervously as he unlocked his apartment door that evening. The sound of typing greeted him before he even stepped inside. Scarlet sat cross-legged on the couch, his old laptop balanced on her knees, papers spread out like battle plans. She looked up quickly, guilt flickering in her blue eyes. "We need to talk," he set his bag down. "Yeah, we do." They both spoke at once. "I should have told you." "I know who you are." Silence hung thick for a moment. Terrence exhaled slowly. "You're Scarlet Winters, CEO of Apex Industries." Her shoulders dropped. "Yes, I didn't mean to lie. I was scared. Someone tried to kill me, Terrence." He crossed his arms, pacing. "There's a reward out for you. 50 grand. They're checking everyone's records, even maintenance." Her breath caught. "Are you?" He shook his head. "No, I'm not turning you in. But you can't stay here. It's too risky." "I have nowhere else to go," she said, desperation creeping into her voice. "Cross has eyes everywhere. Every apartment, every hotel, they're all being watched. The only reason I'm safe is because—" She hesitated. "Because I'm invisible," he finished bitterly. "Just another maintenance worker nobody notices." "That's not what I meant." She stood, closing the distance between them. "You're the first person who's seen me as a person in years. Not a title, not a paycheck, not a target." He met her gaze, torn between anger and sympathy. "You have no idea what it's like being me, Scarlet. Fixing offices for people who don't even look up when you pass. Working twice as hard for half as much just to be told you don't fit the culture." Her eyes softened. "You're right. I don't know, but I can learn, if you'll let me." He turned away, staring at the rain-streaked window. "Learning doesn't change the system." "No," she said, stepping closer. "But maybe together, we can." When he didn't respond, she added quietly, "I looked you up, Terrence. Northwestern Engineering. Full scholarship, perfect record. You should be running departments, not fixing pipes." He laughed dryly. "Yeah, well, life doesn't work that way for everyone." "It should," she said firmly. "And I'm going to make sure it does." He looked at her then. Really looked. This woman who had the world's power and still trembled in a stranger's apartment. "You talk like that and people might actually start believing in something again." She smiled faintly. "Maybe that's the point." Outside, thunder rolled across the city, echoing the storm still brewing inside them. After a long silence, he said, "If we're doing this, we'll need a plan." Her reply came without hesitation. "Then let's start tonight." Neither of them realized it yet, but the alliance they formed in that small South Side apartment would soon shake the entire corporate tower that had kept them apart. Sunday night, the city was quiet except for the hum of streetlights and the whisper of rain. Terrence's truck idled in the alley behind Apex Industries. Inside, Scarlet sat beside him, wearing one of his spare maintenance uniforms and a black cap that hid her blonde hair. "You sure about this?" he asked, eyes flicking between her and the security cameras. She took a steadying breath. "If we don't get that evidence from my office tonight, Cross wins. The board meets tomorrow morning. Once he takes over, he'll destroy everything we built." Terrence adjusted his gloves. "All right, then we do this my way. Quiet, quick, invisible." They exited the truck and slipped into the loading dock. The night guard barely looked up as Terrence waved. "Got a leak on the 40th floor. Orders from Janet." "Go ahead," the guard muttered. Scarlet exhaled slowly as they stepped into the freight elevator. "I've walked through this building 1,000 times," she whispered. "Never thought I'd sneak into my own office dressed like this." He smirked. "Welcome to my world. The side of Apex that never gets invited upstairs." When the doors opened, the contrast was stunning. Polished marble floors gleamed under soft lights. Fresh flowers. Abstract paintings. The air even smelled expensive. "This place feels different at night," Terrence said quietly. "Like it forgets people like me even exist." Scarlet's voice trembled. "Not anymore." Not after this. They reached her office. Terrence unlocked the door using his master key card. Scarlet rushed to her desk, pushing aside a painting to reveal a small safe hidden behind it. She entered the code, hands shaking. The safe clicked open. Flash drives, ledgers, files. "These prove Cross has been embezzling millions," she whispered. "Offshore accounts, bribed board members, everything." But before they could celebrate, voices echoed down the hall. Terrence's heart stopped. "Someone's up here," a guard said. Scarlet froze. Terrence grabbed her wrist. "Closet, now." They slipped into a maintenance room just as footsteps approached. Through the narrow crack in the door, they saw Cross stride into the office, flanked by 2 security guards. "Search everything," he ordered. "She's desperate. If she's alive, she'll come for these files." Scarlet's breath hitched. Terrence wrapped an arm around her shoulders, whispering, "Don't move." For 20 endless minutes they stood pressed together in the dark. She could feel his heartbeat against her back, steady, strong, grounding her through the terror. When Cross finally left, Scarlet sagged against him. "I can't believe this is happening," she whispered. Terrence turned her to face him. "We'll make it happen. You're not alone anymore." In that moment, their eyes locked. Fear, gratitude, something deeper neither dared to name. Without thinking, she reached up, her hand brushing his cheek. "You saved me again," she whispered. He hesitated only a second before whispering back, "Maybe you're saving me too, outside." The storm rumbled on, but inside that tiny room, a different kind of electricity sparked, one that would outlast the night. They drove back through the sleeping city, the evidence safe in Scarlet's bag. The silence between them was charged. Not awkward, not empty, but heavy with everything unspoken. When they reached Terrence's apartment, she sat still for a moment, staring out the rain-streaked windshield. "We did it," she murmured. "Not yet," he said quietly. "Tomorrow's the board meeting. That's where this really begins." Inside, the air was warm, the faint smell of coffee and engine oil grounding them both. Scarlet placed the hard drives on the table like sacred relics. Terrence poured 2 mugs of tea, sliding one her way. She smiled softly. "You make tea like my grandmother used to," he chuckled. "Guess we both had good grandmothers." But as she looked at him across the table, damp hair, grease-stained sleeves, eyes that somehow held both weariness and strength, she felt something shift. Gratitude was giving way to something deeper. "Terrence," she said quietly, "everything I saw in your records, it was wrong. You've been held down for no reason except the color of your skin. That ends tomorrow." He shook his head. "You can't fix the world overnight, Scarlet. Maybe not. But I can start with Apex." Their eyes met, determination meeting fire. And for a moment, the line between their worlds blurred. Later that night, she changed into dry clothes and he found himself watching her move around his apartment with a strange familiarity. The CEO of Apex, barefoot on his kitchen floor, humming softly as she refilled her tea. "You don't belong in a place like this," he said finally. She turned, smiling faintly. "You're wrong. I've never felt safer anywhere else." He looked away, jaw tight. "Tomorrow, when you walk back into that boardroom, everything changes. You'll go back to your world, and I'll go back to mine." She stepped closer until he could smell her perfume. Faint, expensive, softened by rain. "Maybe I don't want those worlds to be separate anymore." His heart kicked hard. "Scarlet, don't." But her hand touched his cheek, silencing him. "You see me, Terrence. No one ever does. And when you do, I remember what it feels like to be human." He could have stepped back. Should have. But he didn't. He reached up, tracing her jaw gently. "You don't know what you're saying." "I do," she whispered. "You saved me. You didn't care who I was. You cared that I was hurt, and that's all I've ever needed someone to care about." Their eyes locked, time holding its breath. Then, without another word, he kissed her. Slow, careful, as if afraid she might vanish. She melted into him, her hands trembling as they tangled in his shirt. When they finally pulled apart, her voice was barely a whisper. "Tomorrow I take back my company. But tonight, can we just be 2 people who found each other in a storm?" He didn't answer with words, only pulled her closer as the rain outside softened to a steady rhythm, like the world itself was holding its breath for what was coming next. Morning came too quickly. The city was silver with mist, the streets still glistening from the night's rain. Terrence and Scarlet stood by the truck in silence, both knowing what the day meant. The evidence sat in a folder between them, proof strong enough to expose Harrison Cross and his allies. "You don't have to come," Scarlet said softly. "If they see you with me, you'll lose your job." Terrence shook his head. "If I stay silent, I lose more than a job. I lose my self-respect." She gave him a long look, admiration mixed with fear, then nodded. "Let's end this." At 9 a.m., the Apex boardroom buzzed with murmurs. Executives whispered, journalists lingered outside, and Cross sat at the head of the table, confident and smug. "As Miss Winters has failed to appear," he announced, "I motion to vote her out as CEO and appoint new leadership." "Seconded," came a voice. "Then let's begin." The doors swung open. Scarlet Winters walked in, not in a designer suit, but in Terrence's faded maintenance uniform. Her hair was tied back, no makeup, her presence radiating calm power. "Sorry I'm late," she said evenly. "I was busy working." The room fell silent. "Security?" Cross barked. "They won't be coming," Scarlet replied as 2 FBI agents entered behind her. "They're escorting you instead." Gasps rippled through the room. She set the folder on the table. "This contains records of Cross's embezzlement, bribery, and fraud. The FBI has verified everything." Cross went pale. "You can't—" "Oh, I can," she interrupted. "For 4 days, I lived as one of our invisible employees. I've seen how this company treats the people who hold it together. Terrence Caldwell, for example, an engineer with a degree, passed over for years because he didn't fit your definition of culture." She turned toward Terrence, who stood quietly by the door, eyes lowered. "That ends today." The agents cuffed Cross as cameras flashed. The rest of the board sat frozen as Scarlet continued, her voice steady but filled with conviction. "Apex Industries will change, starting now. Promotions will be based on merit, not privilege. Advancement programs will be created for every department. No one, from the janitor to the executive, will be invisible again." When the meeting ended, the boardroom was silent except for the hum of city traffic below. Terrence stood beside her, disbelief flickering in his eyes. "You didn't have to do that," he said quietly. "Yes, I did," she replied. "You opened my eyes. Now it's my turn to open theirs." He smiled faintly. "So, what happens next?" She looked at him, the man who had saved her life, risked everything for her. "Next, we build something new, together." He hesitated, voice low. "Scarlet, they'll talk. You're the CEO. I'm someone who showed me what real leadership looks like," she interrupted gently. "Let them talk." She reached for his hand. Cameras still flashed behind the glass walls, but she didn't care, because for the first time, Scarlet Winters wasn't managing an image. She was standing beside the truth. Weeks passed, but the storm they had unleashed kept echoing through the halls of Apex Industries. The headlines spread across every media outlet. "CEO returns from disappearance, exposes corruption," followed by "From janitor to executive, the man who helped save Apex." Inside the company, things were changing. The air felt different, alive, hopeful. Maintenance workers now trained side by side with engineers. Executives stopped for conversations in the break room. For the first time, the invisible were being seen. Terrence stood in his new office overlooking the city skyline. It wasn't as large as the CEO's suite, but it was his, filled with blueprints, sketches, and a plaque that read, "Head of Sustainable Development." He still wore his old maintenance badge on the side of his desk, a reminder of where he came from. The door opened quietly. Scarlet stepped in, holding 2 coffees. "Thought you might need this," she said, smiling. He took it with a grin. "You remembered how I like it?" "I remember everything," she said softly. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, the woman who had been lost in the storm, and the man who stopped to help. "You changed everything, Scarlet," he said quietly. She shook her head. "No, Terrence, you did. You showed me what leadership looks like, and what love can survive." He smiled faintly. "Love's not about who's above or below. It's about who's beside you." She leaned closer. "Then I'm exactly where I belong." The city outside glowed with the golden light of morning, and for a brief moment, the world seemed still. 2 people from different worlds standing together in the one they'd built. Scarlet's voice softened. "Do you ever think about that night? The storm?" "Every day," he replied. "It was the night the world tried to wash us away, and instead washed us clean." She smiled, resting her head against his shoulder. "Funny how the worst moments can lead to the best beginnings." He chuckled. "Guess storms don't always destroy. Sometimes they rebuild." Their reflection in the glass showed 2 silhouettes, once strangers, now partners in purpose and love. Then Scarlet turned toward the camera, breaking the 4th wall for the audience. "If this story moved you," she said gently, "remember, sometimes the smallest act of kindness can rewrite an entire life." Terrence's voice joined hers, calm and sincere. "Never underestimate the power of empathy. You never know who you're saving, or how they might save you." Scarlet smiled, lifting her coffee. "If you believe love still stands stronger than hate, and compassion can bridge any divide," Terrence added, "then share this story." and keep it alive. Together they said, because love doesn't see color. It only sees heart. Screen fades to black. Tell us in the comments, do you believe kindness can change the world? Like, share, and subscribe to keep these stories of unity alive. Because somewhere tonight, another storm is waiting to bring two hearts together.